What's up, everybody, it's Matt, and since it's so close to Halloween, I thought I would do a countdown of my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. This was a tough list to make, considering I've seen hundreds of horror movies in my life, and narrowing it down to 10 was not easy. I didn't want to leave out too many good ones. Also, spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't seen any of these movies. So, here we go. Number 10, Poltergeist. I'm not talking about the 2015 remake, I'm talking about the 1982 version. Poltergeist was one of my first horror movies I ever saw, so I had to include this on my list. Poltergeist tells the story of the Freeling family, who start noticing strange things happening around their house, like chairs stacking themselves or moving across the floor. They find out that they have a poltergeist that torments them and can communicate with their youngest daughter, Carol Ann. She gets sucked into another dimension and the family has to find a way to get her back. This movie is such a classic. It has great practical effects, eerie, gross scenes, and has the honor of being spoofed by many movies and television shows. Number 9. The Visit. Before The Visit, director M. Night Shyamalan was having a bit of a rough patch with his movies being disliked by audiences. I feel this movie was his comeback from The Sixth Sense. One of my favorite things in horror movies is when the ending of the movie has a crazy twist that you didn't see coming. The Visit does just that. It's the story of two kids that spend a few days with their grandparents who they've never met. They start noticing that something is not right with them when their grandparents go a little crazy after dark. After many days of this, they finally video chat with their mother to tell them about the weird occurrences, and their mother tells them that these people are not their grandparents, they are escaped mental patients. Who knew grandparents could be so scary? Number 8. The Shining. Are you really surprised this movie is on my list? The Shining is one of the greatest horror movies on anyone's list. It's Stanley Kubrick's greatest movie and one of Stephen King's greatest stories. The Shining, for anyone who hasn't seen it, is the story of Jack, a man who takes on a caretaker job to watch over the Overlook Hotel during the winter with his wife, Wendy, and son, Denny. However, over the months that they are there, Jack starts getting a little cabin fever and goes crazy. He ends up killing one of the hotel's helpers and almost kills Wendy and Danny. You find out that Danny has a special gift called Shining, where he can use his mind to talk to other people. The only reason that this movie is not number 1 is because I do find it drags at points. Not many, but some parts are a little bit slow. However, when it's good, it's good. Number 7. Hush. Hush is about Madison, a deaf author that lives in the middle of nowhere. One night she is stalked by a crazy masked man that finds out she's deaf and uses it to his advantage, all while trying to kill her. Madison has to outsmart him if she wants to survive. This is a movie I don't hear many people talk about. I first discovered this movie on Netflix a few years back and wasn't expecting much. However, it's now the reason I watch indie horror films. It's a movie that did something that I've never seen 1,000 times before. Number 6. Geralds Game. Another movie based on a Stephen King novel. Gerald's Game is a Netflix film about a married couple, Jesse and Gerald, that go to a cottage to spice up their love life. Gerald thinks it'd be a great idea to handcuff Jesse to the bed frame. Unfortunately, Gerald has a heart attack and dies on top of Jesse. So now Jesse is stuck in her bed with no water or food and has to come up with a plan to escape. Throughout the movie, she starts seeing things that she can't tell if are real or if she's going crazy from being stuck for days. Gerald's Game is not the scariest movie, but it's very eerie at points and sometimes hard to watch. Number 5. It Follows. It Follows is definitely the weirdest movie on my list. I would best describe this movie as supernatural STD. Basically, the movie tells the story of an entity that follows people until it kills them, and the only way to stop it is to sleep with someone. Then, it starts to follow that person. However, if that person gets killed, it comes back for you. As crazy as that sounds, it's actually a great movie. It again does something I've never seen in movies before. The real message in this movie is STDs kill. Number 4. Insidious. Insidious is a movie produced by the company Blumhouse, which in my opinion is the top runners for horror movies most of the time. They make low budget movies and most of the time are pretty good. Insidious tells the story of Josh and his family. Josh's son Dalton goes into a coma for several months with no understanding why. They call in Elise, the expert, and she tells them that Dalton is not in a coma. In fact, he has a special gift where he can travel to a place called the astral plane, which feels like a dream to him. However, he's become lost in the place Elise calls the Further. Elise tells Josh that he may possess the same abilities as Dalton, so he must travel to the Further to save his son. This movie is great, and what I really loved about it is the music and cinematography felt a lot like older horror movies. If I had to say anything bad about the movie, I would say that over the 4 films that they made, I found at least a little bit cheesy once in a while, but otherwise, great movie.
Renee. Try us. Please, from the start.
Number 3. The Conjuring. This is by far the scariest movie on my list in my opinion. The Conjuring is about a family that moves into an old house and is soon haunted by spirits. So they contact Ed and Lorraine Warren to help them rid the house of its demons. The movie introduces a lot of frightening characters like Annabelle, a possessed doll. The Conjuring also had a sequel that was pretty decent as well, and both were apparently based on true events, which makes it a little scarier. There was also a couple spin-offs made of the films, including the Annabelle series, The Nun, and eventually The Crooked Man. The Conjuring is a terrifying movie, and so scary it makes you never want to go into your basement again. Number 2, A Quiet Place. This is the newest movie on my list. However, I love this movie so much I couldn't leave it out. John Krasinski and his wife Emily Blunt star in A Quiet Place, a film about creatures hunting down people and killing them. These creatures are blind and have incredible hearing, and all the characters have to stay quiet so they don't get heard. The daughter in the movie is also deaf, so anytime we see her perspective, the film goes completely silent. So the entire movie has very little dialogue. Anytime the characters communicate, they either use sign language or speak very quietly, which I love because it makes you fear sound the whole movie. It's an original idea I haven't seen before and loved every minute of it. The opening scene and the ending scene will leave you in tears. However, I won't spoil that part for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. Before I talk about my number 1 movie, I thought I would show some honorable mentions.
Game over.
Predictable.
Number 1, It. The movie follows a group of kids known as the Losers Club as they encounter a shape-shifting monster that shows up in the town of Derry every 27 years to prey on children. The monster is mainly shown as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. However, he can become anything the kids fear. The main character Bill's little brother Georgie is killed by Pennywise at the beginning of the movie, which prompts Bill to gather his friends together to kill it. The kids have to learn how to conquer their fears in order to defeat Pennywise. This movie really surprised me how good it was. I was never a fan of the original miniseries, so when I heard they were remaking it, I was not interested. Don't get me wrong, Tim Curry is an amazing Pennywise, but I also really enjoyed Bill Skarsgård's version as well. But over a bit of time, and seeing a few trailers, I went and gave it a try. Well, I love this movie. It is by far the best horror movie I've ever seen in my opinion. I've seen this movie 3 times this year alone. Just the idea of a monster that becomes your biggest fear is such a great concept for a horror movie, which is why it is number 1 on my list.
Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
Well, that was my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. Maybe you agree with my list, maybe you don't, but either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Matt, and if you like this video, feel free to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later. Bye!